What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to talk about what's going on with SPY and many tickers out there, talk about some very important levels to watch for and information on SPY right now that is continuing to develop. But before I break anything down about all this information, talk about these different tickers like Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and etc., let me just mention a couple of things before starting. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, in just about 4 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Alright, so looking at SPY, our critical support for the day was around this 444 area. And if anything, in the morning after we got this bad PPI report, as basically everything was a little bit higher than expected, showing signs that inflation is starting to curl up again, the market ended up selling off pretty hard to start us off. Got this big sell-off, but here's the thing. When the sell-off happened, we had these wicks that were forming on the bottom on SPY like this, and it was very choppy but very tricky because we did technically break below 444, and they knew that this would make a lot of people freak out. They knew this would make people panic. They knew people were looking at the gap down at 442, so this caused a lot of people to start shorting SPY. That's exactly what their plan was, and this was a fake out, right? There's a saying that goes, the first move is oftentimes the wrong move. That's not always true, but that oftentimes does happen. So it was very suspicious, very tricky to start us off. And then I warned everyone that the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report is going to be coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. So expect some high volatility as soon as that comes out. We don't know what that would have caused, but looking at it right now, consumer sentiment was as expected. Inflationary expectations were as expected, and everything else seemed to be as expected, except for the current conditions. That was actually a little bit better, but everything else was as expected, and the 5-year inflationary expectations were a little bit lower than expected. So everything was pretty close to expectations, if not a little bit better. And here's what they did. This data does not have to cause the market to move that hard. Okay, it does not have to do that, but I had a feeling that these people behind these screens, the people behind the charts who are institutions, who are other players in the game, they would use the data as an excuse to pump the markets very hard and screw over a lot of people who were shorting, right? So that's exactly what they did. People were shorting. They said, okay, most retail is shorting. What are we going to do? As soon as the data comes out, this was literally like right here. The data came out, and like within 5 minutes, SPY went from 444 all the way up to the 445.5 area. Crazy pump within 5 minutes, and they just kept it going to about 446.7. Crazy day. Then we've been coming down. We're just getting very tight right now. So on SPY, we're basically forming this wedge right over here. It's like a pennant, and we're going to see which way it breaks. For now, it's kind of stuck in this, so we'll just have to wait for that. But here's something you need to know. The day right now is stuck between support and resistance. Resistance, or the supply zones, between 446 to 447. That's our resistance. We could just mark it right about here if you want. We're going to be watching that as our resistance. And then for support, it's going to be a different value. So I'm just going to mark this like this. We're going to be watching this as our resistance, this entire zone right here. Now it looks big, but that's because I'm using the 5-minute chart, so things are like really tight. And then for support, it's specifically right about here. There's just one area that's acting as our major support, and that's going to be this 444 area. So like right down here, that's our critical support. This is going to be like the biggest support level for the day. The support down here, and if anything, we have to be very careful when watching it. This is what we're going to be watching. This blue line right here is our critical support, and then we're still in this wedge right now. So we're basically stuck between both of these areas. This is our range for the day as of right now, and whichever one breaks could lead to a bigger move, but it's unlikely we're going to get a much bigger of a break. Max pain is a little bit above where we are, so they could try to get us closer to it. So we are trying to break up just a little bit, but still not a confirmed breakout. We can actually readjust this. I think I drew this not the best when I started this off. We could readjust this just a little bit, so it doesn't matter. I wouldn't say we're truly breaking out just yet. You could always redraw this just a little bit. But the truth is, the market right now is pretty crazy. Lots of volatility in the morning. It's designed to just trick as many people as possible. And just watch support and resistance just for safety. Now, another critical stock today was Tesla. Tesla was at critical support at 240. And what happened was we got a temporary break below it. This was a trap. A lot of people thought Tesla was about to tank. Then they brought it right back up above 240, and we actually held above it for almost the entire day. There were some instances where we came just a little bit below it, but we're trying to hold above it still. And this ended up screwing over a lot of people. So looking at Tesla, it's still trying to hold up. It's very tight right now. So we're going to be expecting a big move either by the power hour, if not by next week. But for now, this is what it's looking like. On the 4-hour time frame, you could argue that there's that wedge we were talking about on Tesla, which could lead to a reversal later. So it looks like this, but there's no confirmed reversal just yet. I mentioned this in my channel earlier. When you go to like the 4-hour time frame, there is no confirmation of a reversal on Tesla just yet. So it looks like this, our little wedge that's been, continuing to develop. It's actually a giant wedge. It's not even small, but this giant wedge, there's just no confirmed breakout just yet. If it does break out, we could see this thing fly to much higher levels. But so far, it's relatively weak. It's still near the bottom of it, not really doing much. So don't assume it's going to break out if it has not done so already, right? That's a very important lesson to learn in trading. For Aapl is showing some life. It's very flat as well, hitting 178 as resistance. We called this out, and if that breaks, 178.62 is going to be the next level. Then we have like 179, and then 180 above that. For supports, we have 177.6, 177 flats, and then 176.5. It's very, very tight. Once again, getting very tight, trying to break, but it's going to be testing our 5-minute 200 EMA. We'll see if it could break this or not. We got rejected off this level previously, so we'll have to wait and see on that. And for the triple Q, it's looking relatively weak compared to like Aapl, but it's trying to break above the 50. So we're going to see if that can end up playing out. One thing worth noting about it is we got a really nice drop in the morning to about 365 flat. We saw buyers step in, 368 came as resistance, came down at just below 365. So a little bit different from SPY and Aapl. We're coming back up. Now it's trying to show some life, trying to hold above the 50. We're going to be watching support. The major support for this thing is between 364.5 to about 365, and resistance is around 368. If it breaks 368, 370 is on the table, but there's going to be some resistance around 369.04 the last time I checked it. So we're going to be watching these levels carefully. Nvda also looking relatively weak. I mentioned this in the morning. It came down to our target all the way down to this like 406 area. If that breaks, we could see this thing come all the way down to 401 if there's like a big drop. But I don't really think that's going to happen. I think it's just going to be range bound for the majority of the day, kind of trade sideways, become boring. And it's about to test 412. This is where our 50 EMA happens to be. If it gets above that, we could see it try to get close to this imbalance around 414. But I think it's just very tight and not going to do anything too crazy for the rest of the day. So that's what I'm seeing from the video. Nothing too much from it, just lots of sideways price action. And that's pretty much it for now. Looking at the VIX isn't really doing anything too crazy either. Let me just zoom out on the 30 minutes time frame just to double check this. Now, what is a little concerning is there could be this inverse head and shoulders forming. It depends on how it reacts to the 50. If it breaks below the 50, it could invalidate this inverse head and shoulders. If it bounces and starts pushing, that could be because the market's about to sink. So it could go either way. I don't know what's about to happen with this. It really depends on which levels we break and if we get confirmed breaks, because the problem with this market is it's very tricky and there are lots of fake outs that could make it a little bit more tricky to determine if we're breaking out or not. Just like today, for example, this was a fake break to the downside before a nice pump. You have to be ready for those. You have to be able to catch those. It's very, very tricky. And the lesson I would tell you about today would be, if you were trading the market, it wouldn't have been great to just like start entering puts in the morning because you saw PPI numbers were a little bit hot. It would have been better to just wait for the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report, because I warned you a big move was coming. That would have been a really good strategy. Just wait for the data, see which way the market goes. And then once we saw the confirmed move to the upside, what I was basically eyeing was the 30 minutes time frame, because that gave us the confirmation we needed. Basically, we were coming down like this, right? But the 30 minutes started curling like right during this candle. So right before the data came out, the 30 minutes started curling like right here very nicely. And then that was like a really good signal that the market was going to start pushing up. And we actually got a crossover on the 30 minutes. It still is a little bit more in favor of the bulls than the bears. But the 5-minute also told us the same thing. So the 5-minute was curling first, the 30 minutes started following, and that was like a big confirmation to us that the market was going to push higher. So like right here on this candle, this was it. And if you had gotten calls here, this would have been a good entry or very close to this, because the market had a lot more upside to come, right? You could have made a nice scalp within like 30 minutes, within 20 minutes, been up like over 50 to 100%, depending on your trade and the expiration, etc. So I just wanted to call that out. Anyways, now we're watching SPY. It is trying to push up. It's currently at 445.5. We're approaching our 200 EMA. If it continues to break 445.5, and just watch these levels, watch it continue to be range bound, and just be patient in this market. I know it's a Friday, it's getting kind of slow, but it's okay. Please take care, everyone. I will see you guys later on for the video for the end of the day, and have a great day. The market to the moon is the long term is very bright, and peace out.